Man, fuck school. Fuck school. I don't even know what these guys fucking said about fucking school, but man, my fucking experience with school sucked ass. School's the reason I wasn't able to be on this fucking podcast. That's why I'm doing this stupid faggy record by myself down in the fucking basement like a piece of shit thing. So this isn't even gonna fucking. I'm not gonna be able to know what the fuck anyone was saying. I'm recording this fucking like a week after everybody else fucking did it. And it's all school's fault. Alright, so fucking. I mean, I'm not even like too pissed off about it anymore. If this was like 3 or 4 years ago, I'd still be salty as fuck. But now I'm just kind of like fucking disappointed. School just seems like such a waste of time, a waste of effort, and most importantly, a waste of fucking money. And there was so little preparation, so little understanding of what college in particular. I'm assuming when we're talking about school, we're talking about college. We're talking about high school as well. I think high school is a necessary evil, but it's desperately in need of some sort of reform in order to be a little bit more effective. I think education as a whole, like, either needs to decide, are we going to go for like the fucking like, classic Greek academy style of school where you actually try and elevate people to be the most intelligent they can be, or are we going to say, fuck it, school isn't for intelligence, it's for preparing people for the workforce, in which case we need to understand that school needs to be more specialized because people's careers are specialized and we're wasting so much time doing all of this fucking bullshit. Like 80% of it we're never going to use in our vocations. So we need to decide, just in general, what we need to do with school. But that's neither here or there. I'm going to rant about how much I fucking hate school. I don't know. I guess maybe that does kind of lead into my experience with school, is that so much of my time spent in college was doing classes that I had no interest in and have zero application in my life today. And the same thing can be said with high school. I think, elementary school, middle school, and even to an extent high school, a lot of the subjects that you do in school are very much necessary, to create just sort of the basic core education of a human being. But I think a lot of the stuff. I should probably turn the second sound off. Wow, my phone and my fucking. All of you shut up. All of you fucking shut up. I'm trying to be intelligent and you're ruining it. God, turn off. None. No, no, don't bother me. What was I even saying? There's so much of school that is done almost like for the sake of dick wagging than like actual application. Like I went to school for graphic design. I guess I'm an artist by trade, quote unquote, in terms of what my education should be, and we can get into that later. But I had to take like all this math shit that I've never used. Even like high school math. Like nobody ever fucking uses it. It's really interesting because you take all these math classes, and then I have the interesting perspective of like reflecting on that because I have a younger sister who's, I'm 27. She is 14 right now. So this 10-year sort of difference. I can kind of see her going through all the shit in high school that I did. And then my dad and like me having to help her with math homework and all this shit. And just like asking about all this math things that none of us use. Nobody uses any of this shit. And that kind of goes back to where I'm saying about specialization. Like if you're going to go into math, like if you want to be a mathematician, and like who really fucking knows what they want to do in high school, right? But let's say for shits and giggles you did, that would be important. But there's practical math that were never taught in school. And this is why I think like the whole kind of like romantic, Greek Aristotelian academy kind of school is just not even true anymore. Because if you wanted to really empower people, if school was really a way to educate you and make you a well-rounded person, why don't we have more practical skills? Like why don't we learn how to balance a checkbook? Why don't we learn about, taxation and tax laws and how we can, if you want to take math, like let's learn how to balance your budget. Like that's something that everybody in the fucking world needs to do, is like understand. Let's have classes on how debt works, how fucking, applications of interest work, how bank works, how you taking a loan, and things like that. Like practical math. If I need to sit there and learn math, I want to learn math that I'm going to use in my life. And school doesn't do that. We have like this, we romanticize the STEM fields, but at the same time, such a small percentage of the world actually uses STEM field knowledge long term. But we hammer away that and make it so much more important. And at the same time, we kind of poo-poo on the arts and stuff, and like that's always the first thing to get budget cuts. But I think a lot more people, or maybe not a lot more, but just as many people would go into the arts as they would into STEM fields, but the STEM field is so much more fucking grandiose in its sort of like position. But from a culture perspective, we ignore STEM fields, and we, you know, fucking rock stars and movie stars and shit. So the arts is respected culturally, but not intellectually, and that's kind of weird. I would say it's definitely harder to be a scientist or a mathematician or a physicist than it is to fucking play music or anything. But they're two different kind of applications, and they take two different kind of mindsets. I'm fucking going all over the place. But school fucked me over because I think there's a lot of pressure, at least there was in my house, to go to school, to continue my education, even when I wasn't sure if I even wanted to do that. I knew when I was a little kid that I wanted to do storytelling in some fashion, and I always fancied myself an artist, even though I wasn't really good. And that's kind of the weird thing, is that nobody in my house would just, even to this day, no one has the fucking balls to say, look, Tom, you're not that fucking good. And so I know I'm not that good, but no one else will allow me to function under that kind of mentality of that I'm not good. So I was forced in my house to pursue art as a career because that was something I'm interested in, even though I wasn't sure at the time if it was something I wanted to do. I knew I liked it, I knew I enjoyed drawing, but I knew I wasn't good at it. But I wasn't good at anything else either. Like, I was good at playing Devil May Cry and drawing shitty comics, and that was it. So I really don't have anything in terms of like applicable life skills. So I guess to some terrified parents looking at their 18-year-old son who did nothing but play PlayStation and draw terribly, like, esports weren't a thing, so they couldn't funnel me into that, nor would they probably want to. So art was the only thing they had to do. So I started applying to a bunch of colleges for art, and they all rejected me because I wasn't fucking good, and I knew I wasn't fucking good. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to take a year off of school and just like work on my portfolio. Like, if this is what I'm going to do, you know, I guess I should work on my portfolio and maybe like figure out if this is even what I want to do with my life, because I don't fucking know. Like, I'm a retarded kid. All I did was play PlayStation for like 7 years straight. Like, I don't fucking know what I want to do with my future. But, the parents wouldn't let me do that. They threatened to, like, kick me out if I didn't go to school, because they knew, they're like, oh, fucking studies show that if you don't go to school right out of high school, you never go. It's like, well, maybe because those people realize it's not for them. But I never got the chance to do that. So I ended up going to a really shitty school just because I kept getting rejected from all these schools I was actually interested in. But the one school I really wanted to go to was the Center for Cartoon Studies in Vermont, which is a 2-year program for learning how to do comics, which was like the thing I was really interested in. And it was right in Vermont. It was only like a couple states over, so it wouldn't be that far away from here. And like I was like really gung-ho about that. That was like the one time during my senior year of high school that I was really interested in like college. I was like, I will continue my education. This sounds cool. Like, this sounds like something I would be interested in. But the one time I showed interest, the parents had no interest, because they were just like, this is comics, you're never going to get a job with this, this is stupid, we're not going to co-sign loans on this, so don't bother applying. And I guess loans lead you to the fucking money aspect of it. I'm $40,000 in debt, I got a terrible education because I went to a shitty school that I didn't want to go to, and I went to school for graphic design in 2007, which was probably the worst year to go into that fucking field, because in 2007, the iPhone launched. And the iPhone changed the entire design landscape, because it shifted from print and web being two separate things to like everything being web-based, everything being app-based. And because everything became app-based and the web exploded in terms of complexity, designers also have to be programmers now. If you want to get a design job, you have to do all of the graphic stuff, all the layout stuff, but you also have to be able to code websites and code in WordPress, and you had to do both disciplines. But I was running on 2007 level education and curriculum, so by the time I graduated, I could do print stuff no problem. But like 2011, the iPhone 4S was coming out, the smartphone craze was in full swing, and the industry was completely different. I was completely unprepared for it. And to top that off, I did some internships at my dad's place. He worked at Hanscom Air Force Base, and I was supposed to start doing design work there, but 2 weeks before I graduated, they cut the program, and so I had no job. So I wasn't looking for a job. So school just kind of fucked me over. So now I'm $40K in debt, and all I can do is make YouTube videos that I don't even like doing, because that's all I can do to make money. and I didn't get a good education because I couldn't get into a good school because I wasn't good at the thing I was actually passionate about. I was not allowed the time to get good at it, to get into a good school, and I probably wouldn't even have gone to school anyways because I've always wanted to be kind of an internet entrepreneur because that's the thing I kind of grew up doing, was watching YouTube, playing video games, and drawing shitty little comics. So I just got kind of forced down this stupid fucking path that I didn't want to do, and I've just kind of come to resent school as a result. It fucking sucks. It sucked for me, and I just feel like I think too many people go to school because you're supposed to, when so many people probably don't. And I think even now with the fucking economy the way it is, does it even matter anymore? Is like school worth it? I think if you're going into a STEM field, school's definitely worth it because the returns there are still big. Especially if you're a woman trying to get into a STEM field, you got a fucking golden ticket right there. That field's starving for women. You're gonna get into school no problem. You get bonuses and like fucking scholarships and whatever to get into school, and like it's gonna more than pay off because those fields are hugely fucking, the salaries for those are massive. But like if you're an artist, if you're a creative, like do you really need to go to school now? I think even now, like you look on shit like LinkedIn and you look at like artist profiles, like people judge you by your portfolio more than anything else. If you can fucking stay at home or stay, just go live on your own, work a shitty job and just grind out a fucking beast portfolio, you can probably land a job somewhere at a smaller design firm or a smaller company doing graphics work or doing websites or whatever. And your experience will build your portfolio and your resume at that point, and you never need to fucking go into debt in the first place. This industry is evolving at such a fast pace, especially now, that it just seems ridiculous to go into that much debt for a field that like is mostly freelance now, so you're never really going to get benefits. And even if you do, that it doesn't pay that much. Shit doesn't really pay that high. So I don't know, man. Like I just feel like everything I did in relation to school was a mistake. From just like not paying attention in high school and not learning that shit, to going into fucking college even though I knew I really didn't want to and I wasn't ready, going into a field that I knew I wasn't good enough for, but everyone else wouldn't let me believe that for the sake of my feels, even though I was the only one being realistic. So, and then I just feel like school in general is caught in this weird middle ground of like wanting to be kind of this Aristotelian greatness sort of thing, but also understanding that it's really just designed to fucking have people like make good grades, fucking do good on SAT scores so schools can get fucking more funding, and just prepare them for a fucking menial job that 90% of their graduates are going to eventually fall into just because that's the way the world works. So I don't know if this fucking fits with the podcast at all. Maybe it was kind of depressing, but that's my thoughts on school. Nate, have fun figuring out where this is supposed to fucking go.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Pro Crastinators podcast. Here, once again, is me and all my buddies. I'm the best guy ever, bestie boy. We got the 21st century digital boy, Digibro, over here.
20th century boy.
We got Patreon. Oh, he's still going. Patreon.com/Ben Saint.
Patreon.com/Ben Saint?
That meme ain't going anywhere. And we have the Devu Collective. What's up, buddy?
Every nuclear bomb has a silver lining depending on the inflation rates.
Yeah, Hiroshima has some really great earthworms now. All right, so thanks for joining us once again, folks. And we're here to talk about a topic that, oh man, the passions are running so high in here. As some of us have a healthy relationship with this, most of us do not.
I know.
And it is.
Oh,
yeah.
No, go on.
Okay, I was just going to say, it is, in fact, a schooling with a particular emphasis, I think, on higher education, but we'll touch on the whole system, I think.
Let me just say,
sure,
Nate,
sure.
We know a lot of our viewers are younger. We have some high school age viewers, I think,
yes,
and to
yes.
all those ones who might be wondering about their future and wondering what direction in life they should take, let me just say, don't listen to your parents, don't listen to your guidance counselors and religious authorities. Listen to this. now.
Yeah, this is the real deal. We've had real life experience. Let me give
Because
you
all
just
those
my
religious
general.
authorities, all those authorities in your life, they all come from a previous generation before this system got
That is
fucked
very
beyond
true.
belief.
That is
We
very
were all
true.
from your guys' generation. We know what's up. Apparently, I mean,
Wait.
not me personally,
Wait,
but
no,
these guys do.
I was being partially satirical.
Well, you can
Okay.
take it at your own risk. We are not professionals. You follow our advice at your own risk. But here's my
like
my
that.
general advice, guys. I do not think that it is super beneficial to go for a general education sort of thing. I would highly recommend you have a specific plan in place with like action points there so you can guide yourself to what you're going to do and go to like a community college. And hopefully by the time, you guys are rolling into school, maybe a fucking
I don't
Obama will have
recommend
made
any
this
of
shit
that.
free.
I don't recommend any of that.
No,
I
you just think
recommend
just
you
go
don't
do
fucking
nothing.
go to school. Don't
All right,
do it.
chaos.
Well, that's the best
chaos
plan.
path
That's the best
Digi
plan.
over here, Renegade
It's no
Digi.
chaos. Just don't go to fucking school.
All right, well, it depends what you want to do. If you want to be a fucking, nurse or whatever, you got to go to school. But whatever. Like, okay, let's get into our anecdotal stories here. Who wants to go first? Ben, let's hear about your relationship with schooling.
Well, it's complicated. I'll try to condense it as much as I can. So
Okay.
I did the pretty normal thing, graduated high school, immediately went to college, was, for 4 years, got my degree in 4 years, graduated, went on to, quote unquote, join the workforce, sort of,
Yeah.
not really. All right. So, like, what I do now is obviously not I majored in physics and philosophy, and what I do
Right,
what
right.
I do
Whoa.
now is obviously not that, I do art and whatever.
So basically, it had no benefit whatsoever.
Well,
Is that fair to
I mean,
say?
I did work in physics jobs, like jobs that I needed a degree for a while, like for several years after school. So it's not like I got nothing out
Right,
of it.
right.
And I mean,
Some of those are pretty cool.
here's the thing: I can't extract who I am and what I do right now from my own personal history, which includes having gone to college. So to me, like, that decision was like an essential part in becoming who I am. So I can't say no, it didn't work out. It kind of did, because I'm pretty happy with where I'm at right now.
Yeah, but that you could say that for every bad thing
Yeah.
that happens to you.
Well, yeah, I mean that's true.
essentially.
Yeah,
but so
like-
Ben,
like,
how much
who knows?
you got? How much do you have? A lot of debt or a medium amount of debt?
Yeah, I do.
you know?
Yeah, I have like $10,000 or $20,000.
See,
in
that
debt or
immediately-
something.
Well, that's easy.
Yeah,
that's,
see-
that's poultry.
No, fuck
Well,
that. Having any debt is fucking disgusting.
having
and you
any
shouldn't
debt
have
is
any debt.
Comparatively speaking,
Having
here.
any debt
Like,
is
that's-
I
you got off
disgusting.
easy.
I have I make so little money that I manage to get some of it, my payments, like, deferred. So lately I
Yeah,
haven't
yeah.
had to pay that much back. I mean, I'm going to eventually. Like, I mean, it's still accruing a little bit of interest. Like it accrued So like, it's still a problem, but it's not. I mean, I can safely ignore it for right now. I don't know. I'm gonna start paying it back as soon as I have a little bit of extra money.
Let's just that's cool. But let's hear Devu's side, his education experience, because this is a totally different story.
Yeah,
and I find
so
it pretty
my
fascinating.
dad was a dude who got several degrees and then realized he thought that school was giant gay.
Oh, what
circle jerk
kind of degrees
of
did you
gayness.
get? Just out of curiosity.
Like when he was like 20 or so, he became a Christian and got into like Bible study stuff.
Okay.
Or like church leadership stuff that is not necessarily as advanced as physics, but stuff that does require legitimate education. Like he knows
Sure,
the Bible
sure.
extremely well. He's a big Bible otaku, and he knows how to like do church leadership and stuff. Even
he should
though,
be a
as he
Bible
admits,
analyst on YouTube.
yeah, he wants
Actually
to be.
wants to be.
What? Dude, have me on as co-host. I want to be in that.
Yeah, well, what he told me is that, hey, Devu, if you make videos, if you edit my Bible analysis videos, you won't have to pay rent or pay less
Oh
rent.
my
Oh
God.
my
That's the
fucking
arrangement
God,
we're on.
Devu.
Thankfully, though, he hasn't actually put me up to that yet. He's still working on it. It takes him
Interesting.
forever because he's got a job, right?
Holy
Right,
You
right.
can't get any internet work done when you have a job.
Oh, let me tell you
But,
what that's like, people. Okay, but go on.
We'll make
go
that
on,
a whole
dude.
separate podcast.
Yeah,
That'll
having
be
a
pod-
job,
anyway.
the biggest problem in the universe for sure.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, go
Yeah,
on,
I
dude.
mean,
How about
so,
your schooling, though?
So after all those degrees, I guess I think my dad is just opposed opposed to human institutions in general.
Yeah.
He started his own business. He just doesn't. So he homeschooled all of his children, including me, since I'm one of his children.
Does that mean that your
obviously.
mom taught you and stuff?
Yeah, kind of. It's
Okay.
really weird like that, because obviously part of it was like religious motivation too.
Yeah.
That was a bit of it. But there's plenty of Christian schools. Like my
Me
youngest
and
sister.
Ben went to church when we were younger with some homeschooled folks, and I never quite understood what was going on with that. Yeah, hey, I didn't have a choice. I had to fucking go, or my parents would literally murder me. So
Yeah, they would have fucking Abraham and Isaac their ass.
they would have sent us to the hell that we so longed for by choosing not to go to church. But all right, go on, dude.
Yeah. So. Like, it was just, in general, my dad just doesn't like the idea of school as an institution. He thinks it's kind of a waste, right?
Okay, hey, I
and
wonder
my
where you
sister,
get that idea.
My younger sister, who's 12 right now, is so much, like, she needs a social environment in order to learn. She just needs a school system in order to even, like, be productive. So after, like, a year of, like, my dad just trying to keep her out of this one Christian school, she's just, like, she wasn't getting anything done. She could not focus. So he finally brought her back. And my sister hates all of her classmates. Whenever I talk to her, she goes on and on about how everyone at her school is idiots, but she needs that environment in order to function.
Interesting.
So those are the kind of people for whom school is required. And I guess those are the kind of people who invented school as a thing, right?
Yeah, different strokes for different folks. It's the Aristotle model, you all get together and you fuck each other and you occasionally learn something cool.
Right.
That
So
is what school is like. That's what college is like.
Right? That's it.
So I think that the two different
Thanks,
versions
Plato.
of homeschooling that people are able to visualize is either no one ever gets anything done because it's impossible to motivate yourself at home.
Yeah.
Or everything is extremely strict. I don't know anyone who's like either of those extremes because I know a bunch of homeschooled kids because that's the environment my family brought me up around.
You've
so
got
I
a
know
little
lot of
brother though
people
too,
like that.
right? Who was
my brother was also homeschooled as well.
Yeah, okay.
I think we definitely leaned more on the never getting anything done side because me and my brother are both. I mean, my brother particularly, I think, actually has dyslexia. He can't read super fast, even though he's very smart, and even though obviously I'm a genius of all times. I can't. I can't focus. I can't learn anything in like a coherent way. And
Unless
when
it's written in a Thomas Sowell audiobook. It's the only way to learn anything.
Right. Well, stuff like that. I just no. Even that, if you wanted to like do a test on me to like remember specific names, there's no reliability with like my
being
ability
able
to
to
know
remember
things.
specific names is not intelligence. It's dumb bullshit they make you do in
Right.
school.
Well, now here's what I want to
Yeah,
get into,
yeah.
right? Because as I've been getting into YouTube and really admiring the like vast knowledge of people like James Rolfe or even Movie Bob, but like particularly Jesse and Digi over here. Jesse, who has an unbelievably broad knowledge of things, and Digi, who has an
community, man.
unfathomably deep knowledge of things. And I came to realize that neither of them learned those things in any sort of way that they'd be able to take a test on. Like, imagine if they wanted to do an anime like school. It'd be like, all right, guys, today we're gonna study Nichijou. You need to all memorize the names of the staff members who worked on
well, I can do
Nichijou
that.
and remember the air
assignment.
dates,
Ugh.
the air dates of each episode. And so you'd spend all week just learning a couple of random facts about this one show. And and like whereas like all these anime analysis people on YouTube who have all this knowledge, they just got it from like going on Mal or Anime News Network and this just looking at random shit for like an hour every night.
It's amazing what the human mind can do when it has
and so, like,
passion for its subject.
I look back on like how I like history. I think history is fascinating. I just hate learning history the way school wants me to do it. Right? So like, because like the way that I was
Wikipedia is
homeschooled
the right way to learn history.
Yeah. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Because, like, so my mom basically just gave me pre-packaged curriculum. Like, she didn't do a whole, like, she was fairly hands-on, but it wasn't like she was composing curriculum herself. So she just, like, gave, like, here's a CD that teaches you 6th grade. Put
I'd
it
like
in,
a
right?
hands-on education from your mom.
Oh, God damn!
So I basically got a standard curriculum in a way, right? So I know exactly
Right.
how all that goes, and I know how tedious it is. Because it's like I'll get a history textbook, and I just have to remember all these arbitrary names of things, and it's like in the same amount of think about it this way: in the same amount of time it would take to have a teacher explain to you what you're going to learn, and then go home, and then read the chapter over and over again to make sure you remember it, and then do the homework, and then like go do the tests, and then like pace around hoping you got the test right, and then looking at the test. In all that time, you could just read half the entire textbook.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
could just get so much more done. Like, if you are the kind of person who just can just read stuff and like remember like 30% of it, that's a totally valuable piece of knowledge. And like if I were to go back to myself as a kid who always wanted to be able to read, I mean, I'm a good reader. I always liked reading. I just always was bored by all the books I had at my disposal. I just didn't find any books I liked. And I was always like upset about it. If I could have talked to myself then, I would have told myself, just read the first chapter of every book in the universe. Just read the first chapter. Stop as soon as you get bored. Because
or you could be like the knowledge guy and get other people to read the books for you.
Yeah, I mean, I like reading. I just think that books are boring. And by the way, I attribute that to God. God denied me good books because all good books have like spells or magic or violence in them. I wasn't allowed to read Harry Potter.
The Bible has
stories.
all of those things. What are you talking
That's
about?
true. That is
well,
true.
yeah, but it's just one book. You get tired of it eventually. I actually told my parents that last week. No, I'm not doing another Bible study. I've studied the Bible enough. I'm done with it.
Oh,
I told them that.
dude, nice.
I mean, yeah, it's true. Like, it's just like, how the heck are they still not bored of that one book? But like Harry Potter, right? There were stories in the news about kids being able to finally get into reading because of that book. And I heard those stories on the news. My parents were there. They knew that me and my younger brother were both not really able to get into books. But that 0.0000003% chance that reading them would get us into witchcraft was just not worth taking the risk. Let us be stupid instead, right?
Listen,
That's
dear viewers.
That's a little messed up, but hey.
That is just the first example of how school has fucked up our lives irrevocably. And there's so many more.
Say that. If you went back to school,
I figured it out.
My biggest concern with this podcast is that we are going to make ourselves look like fucking idiots somehow.
And convince everyone to go to school so they don't end up dumb like us.
Dude, if anyone is like actually smart, someone who could actually like take tests well, and then is able to like really get a hold of their life and get a good paying job and just like work at it like crazy until they pay off all their debt, clearly the higher education system will probably work out all right.
The higher education system does work out well for some people. There's no
my good buddy Michelle. My good buddy Michelle is now she's like 25 like me. She's married. She has been a nurse like since she was 21 or whatever, like after she graduated, and she's just been on the ground. Her student loans paid. She now owns a house with her husband.
On the dang
she's
ball.
married. I'm sure she's working on having kids. Like she's got herself a good situation going.
Like
it's
the thing you got to learn is that you got to learn hard. You have to know when to give up. Like, because that's another thing I would have told myself as a teenager is, hey,
she never gave up, though.
By the time I was in 8th grade, math was just beyond me. I could not follow it anymore. I would stare at a problem for an hour and a half and not be able to do any of it. I would just not be able to figure out at all. I just couldn't do it. And I made an RPG like all by myself. It's buggy, but it works most of the time. I made an RPG because I can do some basic algebra when I. What?
Did you make it like an engine?
Multimedia Fusion, a program where you do need to do the programming yourself.
Cool.
So, but I can do math. It's just that the way that math is taught is terrible. And Maddox was talking about this, and I think in one of his bonus episodes of his podcast with Dick, rest in peace, biggest problem, about how that math is taught terribly because all they do is teach the formulas. It's like if you taught history by just telling you, like, the formulas of how history book. Fine, but look, I got better stuff to say.
Let's take a little break from Devu
I'm going to segue
ranting.
this back into other stuff about homeschooling, right? Because Maddox would also talk about how he brought in homeschooling as a problem one time. And he made a bunch of really good points, like how the parents will now monopolize the way that kid is raised. You don't get to have a diversified portfolio of authority figures. And I do think that is indeed true. And he talked about how, because I think people are concerned about the homeschooling thing, because a lot of it is for religious reasons. And a lot of times they're like, oh, well, are they going to deny evolution and stuff? Like, are you not going to learn about that? Well, in the case of, because I think this is worth talking about on this podcast, right?
Okay.
In the case of my family, what they did was they had this DVD that explains why evolution is not real, right?
Oh.
But right?
Okay,
It was like this movie. It was like this documentary, because it talks about the flagellum motor, which was this one
It's the cell
device
structure, right?
in a cell
Yeah.
that's like, when you look at it, it's like so fucking complicated. There's no way it could just be put together randomly.
Yeah.
And then, of course, later on, I look at a YouTube video of some lecture of this guy being like, hey, you know that flagellum motor that people make a big deal about? Here's this other motor that's exactly the same minus 2 parts.
Yeah.
So it evolved into
but
it,
the thing is, though, through that documentary, I learned everything about what evolution was, and then it was just later I had to learn the refutation to it, and then I was completely on page with everyone else.
Yeah,
so
I
then
mean,
it's like
there's a
wasn't that
thing
big of
called
a-
critical thinking that can
right.
help.
Critical
sometimes.
thinking, the biggest
Yeah.
solution in the universe, no joke. So,
Yeah, pretty much.
So in general,
Hey,
my
there you
stance
go.
on school is that it should just be whatever the heck you want it to be. And that, like homeschooling might not be the best way, but like you can get plenty of social interaction with homeschooling because like you have all this time on your hands. If other kids are not always in school, there's plenty of kids to hang out with.
Well,
it's not really.
So
something
are
that's
you
socially
in
I got
favor of
100. I
homeschooling?
got 100% of my social interaction from school. I honestly can't imagine
too.
like a life without
Well, yeah.
having gone to school. It just seems
Right,
seems
'cause
totally
it-
alien to me.
Right. Well, here's what that's like. It's sort of like couples who get married early into their adulthood,
Right.
and then some of their friends don't get married, and they're like, "How could you not be married? Because my whole life is based around my family now."
Yeah.
It's like with school,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like because you have to spend all your time there. Of course, most of your life happens there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there were
When
some
you don't have to be
sexy
there-
young ladies at that school I went to.
Yeah.
Know what I'm saying, dog? Know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Yeah, I
you have
mean,
made yourself perfectly clear, best guy ever.
Yeah, I had plenty of social interaction. I'm just
You know
awkward
what they
because
say
I'm
about
awkward,
high
not because
school
I didn't
girls?
get a
I
chance.
keep getting older and they stay the same.
Let me break into this topic and say that on this like education in general, right? I think
Yeah.
I mean, yes, some people can succeed, and like you said before, Davu, some people need that like social school environment to learn. I know that in discussion of like a lot of people ask me if I went to art school. The answer is no, by the way. On the subject of art school,
He
like,
went to fart school.
people like this comes up a lot. People want to know like, is art school worth it? And the answer
Right,
is like.
right.
You don't need to go to art school to learn art. You can learn art on your own, but you have to be self-motivated to do it, and
Right,
you have
right.
to... And, like, the other benefits of art school that you can't get on your own are, like, social networking and, like, meeting people and other artists in the field, and also that, like, structured environment that will,
All right,
like...
Ben. Here's
Yeah.
where I'm gonna break in.
That's
You
a good
finally
point.
Wait,
gave
wait.
me the in here.
Okay,
Wait,
but I
wait,
have
let
to
Ben
continue
finish?
that point
Okay.
in a minute, but go ahead.
Well, okay, you just continue yours because I'm gonna
okay.
go on a fucking
Yeah,
tirade.
yeah.
Well, that bit about being self-motivated is really important.
Yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
think it applies to all schools, right? And like
It's the
all
key to
education.
all of this.
Yeah,
if
like
we can get self-motivation working, the rest
like,
of this will work.
Like, okay, in our society, a degree is important, but a degree is kind of arbitrary. And without the degree, all
Totally.
a college is just like they give you books and they bring you into a group setting and someone talks at you and tells you stuff, right? And like anything you can learn in a classroom, you can learn on the internet or by yourself or somehow. You just have to be
Yep,
self-motivated,
yep.
right?
You can Google
like,
it.
Like if you really want something like Digi, you've talked about this with like making videos, right? Like, no, you didn't go to school to learn how to make a video. You just looked at other videos, figured it out, and because you wanted it, you made it happen. You like by whatever means necessary. And like with learning, it's the same. If you want to learn something, you're gonna make it happen. You got to be passionate. Like
See, that's the thing, Ben. I
Yeah.
think that the problem here is that the same self-motivation that would drive you to learn this shit on your own is the exact same one you need to even be successful at school. So in the
Yeah,
end,
yeah,
if
yeah.
you're so self-motivated that you could actually do well in college, you can just teach yourself shit. Like, okay, my good
Perhaps.
friend Don-san, who I bring up all the time in some of my podcasts because he's a super fucking intelligent guy. This is a dude who he actually had to drop out of high school because of the fact that he had cluster headaches, which is a condition where every
Lol,
morning
he's so dumb. He dropped out of high school. Lol.
every morning he would wake up and have like a
That's just kidding,
seismic
Dang-san.
migraine that made it so he just couldn't do anything for like hours on end, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Made him a hikikomori. He stayed in his room throughout the last 2 years of high school. I met him just because he happened to come to school like 2 times, and one of those times he had a Lucky Star book, and I started talking to him, and I got his
okay, so
email
he
address.
is the guy. Now I'm connecting
Yeah.
the name with the story.
Yeah,
Okay.
So Don-san, when I met him, he was in my Japanese class. He already knew how to read and speak Japanese because he looked it up online and he taught
Yeah.
himself. Partly it's because he'd seen every anime ever, so he had some good roots in there. But like,
fucking immersion learning or whatever you call
yeah,
it.
but he
Yeah.
he learned just by just by looking at shit. He would read Japanese, like he learned the basic symbols, then would read manga to pick up on some of the kanji. Like, cause a lot of manga has furigana where it tells you what each kanji means above the kanji if it's like a shonen manga and stuff. So he learned through that. The dude knows how to do anything involving like building computers. He's like a super he knows a lot of computer hardware stuff, and he knows everything about like networking. Like he specializes in networking, like computer networking, as in connecting to the internet and shit like that.
Right.
And he's super passionate about that stuff, and so ever since I've known him, he's been my tech guy. I refer to him as my tech guy because I don't know any of that shit, and I'm not at all motivated to learn it. So anytime I have a technology problem, I come to him. He's helped me build computers. He's helped me figure out all kinds of new layouts for, making our house capable of having internet because it's too fucking big. This dude knew everything, right? Then he got his cluster headaches got cured not too long after he was like 18 or 19 through magic mushrooms, incidentally.
Really?
Yes.
Awesome.
It was an experimental
Did you know that if you lock arms around a retarded girl and scream nightmare, 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 it'll cure her retardation. Yeah, that's on record.
Oh my god.
That's like
why am I the only one laughing at that?
I don't know.
I'm just what?
All right.
Anyways,
never mind.
This dude, he got his cluster headaches cured. So he went to college, to community college, right? Because this dude, he actually, like, because he got his GED, right, after dropping out of high school. He had never, he didn't study any of this shit. He just, like, walked in and took the tests and got, like, perfect scores on all of them. Because he knows everything. He's just a fucking genius, right? So he perfect scores all his GEDs. He goes to college. He takes 2 years in, like, networking and computer fucking learning shit. He gets his associates. He already knew all the stuff. Like, he literally went to school as a formality because he needed the degree in order to be hired. But he already knew all the things he was learning. He already, he got, like, a million qualifications, took all these, tests for qualifications and stuff. He just knew all this stuff. And yet, he still can't get a job because nowhere in the field of fucking computer technology will they hire you unless you have 5 years of experience. How do you get those 5 years of experience? Yeah. Nobody fucking knows. You could do an
totally
unpaid internship. Oh, great!
For 5 years.
Oh my god,
great.
Unpaid internships are such a crime.
They're the biggest meme that needs to die. They're destroying America, as far as I'm concerned. But I've got
how
a buddy.
Can they get away with that?
I've got a friend, Rich,
understand.
who went to school out west in Seattle at like this place called Digipen, which is like a hardcore gaming school. That like if you work there, you will get a job at Nintendo or one of these gaming schools or gaming companies or whatever. And it's just he went to school with this guy Quest. That's his actual name, which is pretty dope. And
wow,
that
is
is an
working
awesome
for Nintendo.
Name.
I know, right? And Quest went there with him. Quest was an awesome programmer, went there for 2 years. It's a 4-year degree, just dropped out, immediately got hired, and has been doing that ever since. He's been living the good life.
Is his last name apostrophe Revenge? Like Quest's Revenge? Or like...
Probably.
So what I was getting to there is you're the kind of person, if you already have, like if you're graduating high school with a 3.5 grade point average or higher, or even a 3.0 or higher, like you have the mindset that you could succeed in college. But if you applied that mindset to something you want to learn, then you will probably learn that thing. I think the people who need to go to college, there's two types. One is if you're trying to get into a field where you can't do it by yourself. Like my brother Victor, he's trying to become a filmmaker. And I mean, it's possible to learn how to make films on your own, and there are some directors who have done it, but like just even being able to handle the kind of equipment you need to make real movies, which all of the equipment is at minimum $40,000 a piece. You will never collect it all on your own unless you're fucking rich. So in order to even have exposure to the tools, and because you need a crew to be able to make a film, it's almost impossible to learn that specific skill set without going to college, which is why for someone like Victor it's good. And then I think the other people who need to go to college are the ones who all they have is study skills. Like, if you graduate high school
Sure.
and your skills are that you know how to study, then you can go to college and it won't matter what curriculum you take because you'll probably succeed at it. And I think that most of the
Right.
people who become doctors and stuff, those are the kind of people they are. They're people
Yeah,
who are
you know,
good
my
at school.
my dad and
so
my
they
mom
take the
both
highest,
didn't know what they wanted to do specifically when they went into school and figured it out and have had great careers.
I mean,
doing that shit.
I had no
Yeah.
idea what I wanted to do when I went into college. Like, I got there, and at some point, I kind of decided that physics and philosophy were mostly physics. Basically, I chose that while I was there, and then I just kind of went with it for the foreseeable future. And I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people. I mean, did you say that, like, if you're good enough for college, you could apply that knowledge to something you want to do? But what if you don't know what you want to do, or you want to?
Right,
Well,
well,
that's,
here-
that's
here's
what
the
I'm
thing about
saying.
that.
Like, that's
Yeah.
the,
Then there's like
Yeah.
people who don't know what they want to do, and or people who aren't that self-motivated. You know, it's like, okay, people say, well, at very least, school is a great way to get you to be motivated, right? Well, getting a job, even a dumb job, would probably do that just as well.
I don't
if
think
not
school's
better.
good to be. I don't think it's
But-
a good
and then,
motivation.
guess
because
what?
it's
Here's the
so
thing about a
easy
job,
to just
though.
go, oh,
You can
well,
have-
I fail. I don't care. You know.
Right. Because
Yeah.
here's the thing, though, right? A job. Let's just say all things are equal, that it gives you the same amount of inspiration or the same amount of like allowing you to eat up time while you decide what to do with your life.
Right.
You'll walk away from a job with positive money instead of negative money.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
That's
So
the most
money
important
is
thing
a
you could.
big-
That's like such a huge
It's
difference,
the
right
money,
there.
The money is a
Lebowski,
big,
it's
like,
the money.
Like, if college were free, I would say,
Yeah.
if you graduate high school and don't know what to do and aren't that self-motivated, go to college. But, like,
Bernie
it's not free.
2016.
Yeah, like,
Right.
it costs so much money. So, like, I feel like my takeaways from college were overall pretty positive, and yet, can I really justify all that in light of the, like, $20,000 I have yet to pay
Yeah,
back to
that's
the
the
government?
question that
I
you
don't
have to
know.
ask.
I really don't
Like
know.
because like my dad, like right when he started a business like 10 years ago, he started making me come to work every once in a while, like once a month or so. Like, hey, David or Devu, whichever one. I don't know if I'm going to be like Maddox, where all my family members call me by my username.
Do they do that to his family members? Call him Maddox now?
Well, like when he talks about his family members talking
yeah,
about
okay,
him,
okay.
they call him in his imagination.
Right.
But anyway,
Hey, what's his
so
real name?
he
Just
started
to-
a window
just-
cleaning business. So I started
okay.
like learning how to clean windows by the time I was
yeah.
13, and I was able to do it pretty well by the time I was 15. And then when I was like 17 and a half, he made me start doing it full time, and it took me like 3.5 years or 4 years to finally make enough money on YouTube to break out of that. But the point is, like, if for whatever reason, like the internet just died, like the internet just all fried, there was no way to make any money off of it anymore.
Yeah.
I would be able to and then let's say my dad's business just went under because no one wants to work for it, even though he does a great job. I would be able to get a job doing like any sort of blue collar thing, or that involves like getting on ladders or cleaning windows or like doing gardening.
Sure.
I would know how to do that, even though I would hate my life and want to die every second of my life. I would be able to do it and like do it in a way that would like be friendly and
Look,
like I'm able to work really well when I'm at work because I have that experience. And meanwhile, like even though I hate cleaning windows so much and it's the most unsatisfying thing in the universe, it is 1,000 times more unsatisfying than it's 1,000 times more less unsatisfying than figuring out when two trains that don't exist will cross one another with an equal
yeah.
amount of cargo at
Yeah.
3
Look,
p.m.
I think the biggest problem here, I think the reason that that college is so over glamorized in our society is that everyone thinks that you need college to get a good job, to get a high-paying job. Like that's
the meme. Yep.
The imagination of it is that you get this high-paying job, but the fact is that blue-collar jobs don't pay badly necessarily. And there's a lot of jobs you can get with no college education that you can make a lot of money doing. And
Apprentice
also,
as an electrician or a plumber, people.
yeah,
You'll be great. You'll be in great shape.
yeah, and it's also fun and cool to do those jobs.
You're
and
building fucking houses,
You have
people.
a
Come
life
on.
skill
Yeah.
that will always be useful for the rest of fucking
Yep.
time. But
Let
like,
me.
Yeah.
Oh no, go on.
you know, like I think. Okay, here's my perspective on all this, because I've been like a dragon in the waiting for like this whole time. Like all you guys are
I
talking,
feel the same way.
and I
but
just
go
want
on.
to just bite the head off of this whole entire school meme.
There's a meme that needs to die.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like in my experience, all of my friends went to college and none of them have done shit with it. All of them are working normal ass jobs. I have a couple of friends who just graduated who have like ideas of what they want to do with their degree, but like overall, Victor is the closest anyone is to doing anything with it. He graduated and he's doing film work, but he can barely get paid. He can barely find work, can barely get paid doing that work. The only way he will have like an easier in would be if he went all the way out to LA, where everyone's trying to be a filmmaker. So good luck, you know, you're fucking tiny fish in an enormous pond. But it's like impossible for any of these people to get work. And yet my dad, who he went to, he dropped out of high school. The second he turned 18, he got his GED and he joined the Navy. He was in the Navy for 6 years. He got, I think, like 2 years of college education in the Navy. I don't know what he studied. Like, I don't think he majored in anything. I don't even know if he graduated or got an
marine biology.
But
is my guess.
He was in the Navy for all this time. And then, you know, him and my mom were just working kind of like odd. Like my mom and dad have always just been managers at like wherever they work, because they're both extremely hardworking and goal-oriented people who love to be on top. Like my mom loves to be in control.
Your mom loves to be on top, huh?
Too easy, Nate. Too easy.
Too easy. All right.
But she, you know, they both were always managers and like in managerial positions. And then my dad started working for a car dealership, which anyone can do, like as long as you have the personality for it. It's really just a matter of
stuff.
Being able to sell shit to people. He became a car salesman,
which is an impressive skill, by the way. It's a good thing to have.
Right, and he had no idea how to do that. Like my dad, this is how because like most of the salespeople are like very money motivated, like go getter type people who are very like sly and shyster
the
types.
People who built America.
But my
Like
dad,
me. So they're exactly like me, is what you're saying.
Only better in every way, Ben.
But the thing
Right.
is that
Only they can actually do their job.
My
That's
dad's
right,
a
that's
super
right.
honest guy. He's like the opposite.
Oh, that's a problem
of
right
that.
there.
But here's the way that that one of his friends who he met in the car business, who both of them went on to become general managers, he described my dad's technique as talking at people until they're so confused that they just buy the damn car.
Oh yeah,
Because he's like
I
me,
know that one.
where he'll just keep rambling on and on about it, and then eventually,
Oh
I
my
don't know
God,
what you're
imagine
talking about.
Digi
Fine,
as a-
K-On! Is deep. Jesus.
Imagine
Stop,
Digi
shut
as
up.
a salesman. Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
I would do anything to shut you the fuck up.
I was almost gonna. I almost took that job. My dad almost got me a job as a salesman. But
Imagine you looking like you do now
Yeah,
as
no.
a car salesman.
no way. But yeah, like he's just a guy who just like wanted to work very badly, applied
Right,
himself to
right.
this job with all he had. He was employee of the month every fucking month forever, and then rose up the ranks and became a general manager. And he makes a stupid amount of money. He makes way more money than anybody else I know or have ever known, or likely will ever know, unless I start knowing rich people, you know? Like,
Well, we can't all be managers, though.
right.
It's true.
But the
It's
thing
true.
is, I'm saying that like it's possible to never go to college, and yet, I mean, he
Yeah,
he did briefly,
it's possible. But is it
Right.
the likely outcome for most people?
but you know what also
probably.
isn't the likely outcome for most people? Doing anything with your college education.
Right, now here's
almost
the thing
no
about
one
degrees.
does anything with it. There's like a lucky few who accomplish
Well,
anything.
That's a bit of
Right.
an exaggeration.
Here, let me
That's
talk
not an
about the whole
exaggeration.
degree
Well,
thing.
almost
All right,
everyone
there's a-
drops
listen,
out. Almost
No, I
everyone's
mean,
just full of
even
debt
even
forever.
if you don't go into a field directly related to your major, I mean, I think most people who get degrees still end up in, you know, maybe a not necessarily better, but in some thing that needed a degree to get into.
Well,
like,
Ben,
with
it's kind of
degrees-
worse
Find
than
me
that.
one of
degree.
those
Let me cut in
people.
for a second. Let me get
Well, like me, I mean, what I do for like my tutoring job, I needed a degree to do it. Technically,
Right.
all the jobs
Okay.
I had before were things that I only got because I had a degree. Like
Right, but
having a
Digi,
degree,
yeah.
I mean, I don't disagree with any of the stuff you're saying to disparage it, but it's true that not having a degree disqualifies you from a lot of potential things
Right,
that could
but
be making
also,
you
Ben,
money.
there's
What
something
also
really, there's some-
disqualifies you is just not having knowledge, like with the electrician job. Like
You would be amazed how much that doesn't matter if you have the degree. My current job is a perfect example of that.
Yeah,
I just
When
have.
it comes to getting jobs,
degree.
it's all about credentials, and knowledge is not a credential you can
Wait,
put
Nate,
on your
do
resume.
you know how to program? Do you even know what is a programming?
I do know what is a programming, but the idea was that you come on that's the amazing thing that I learned, like with some of these jobs. Once you join like a real job in a company that like will give you benefits and all this stuff, they will train you to do the job. So what's even the fucking point of the education?
Right. Well,
if
here's
they're
the
going to
thing
teach
about
you
that,
how to
right?
do it.
There's a big fallacy about in our society that we had about college degrees that formed over the course of 120 years. Right now, this is going to be pretty conjecture-y, but I'm pretty sure of it. Anyone feel free to correct me. But okay, back in the day, the 1800s and the early 1900s, having a degree meant that you were either really privileged or a genius and or an incredibly hard worker, right? It meant that you were an exceptional individual, right?
Yeah.
Now this led to what we call the fallacy of composition, which is what's true of one person is true of the whole. For example, if you were in a stadium and you stand up, you can see better. But if everyone stands up, nobody can see better. If everyone runs out of a burning building, they all get stuck. But if one person runs out, they'll do great. So back in the day, a few people got college degrees. It meant they were better than everyone else. So you were more hireable. But when everyone has a college degree, it no longer means you're exceptional. It means you're hopefully competent. So now all it's done is it's created this artificial need to have a degree just to prove that you're even like capable of doing anything. So
that's
now
pretty much it.
So now it's like we've basically our society has duped ourselves into you have to spend dozens of thousands of dollars in debt to be proven as competent. And that's a pretty messed up situation.
All right. Let me tell you my story now. All right. My story is it's the worst thing about my life, my relationship with my higher education. So I too went to high school, same school as Ben, was 2 years younger than him. And then I went to college with the dream of becoming a doctor. So I went to school in New Jersey, aiming for a biology degree or something, and then to go to medical school later. So 2 years into that, I decided I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be a computer science major, which was fine. Now, the biggest problem along this whole thing was that I met with my advisor like every year to make sure I was taking the right classes. Nobody along that way ever informed me that no matter what I did, I would not be taking enough classes to graduate on time. So when I hit that 4-year mark, I was aware I'd have to do more, but I didn't think it would be much. I thought it'd be like a year. And now I'm sitting here. Well, okay, I'm doing okay now. But basically, after all my buddies graduated, I went back to Massachusetts, spent, 3 years. Spent 3 years taking like a course or two a semester, working at these shitty jobs, paying student loans. At this point, I've got like $20,000 of debt or something. Haven't made a fucking dent in the thing. Been taking these disgusting, horrific jobs. The only thing that made my life bearable was when I discovered YouTube and started doing T-Bap and stuff. Those were the only things in life that gave me joy. I lived with my parents. I got 0 to almost no puss during that time. After college, my hunger had awoken. It was a nightmare. And have just been treading water ever since until miraculously, and this is what really infuriates me, the only way I got out of this was just that my dad has a good family friend who just basically made a decree, give this kid a job at your company in Ohio. So here I am with the job because it was handed to me. It's not like I earned the
privilege
thing.
Alert. Privilege
I mean,
alert!
I was, but that's the thing. I was super privileged, but that should not be how it is. No one should. This whole
I mean, that's how it is with
thing.
me too. I have super privilege alert. Like I could just move away for like 5 years and then come back and immediately start cleaning windows again.
I
if I have
don't
to,
want
so.
an unfair advantage. I don't want that for anyone.
I got you. Like. It is kind of fucked up that, like, after going through all that
and
shit...
that's the thing,
after
going
through
so
all that
infuriating.
shit to get a degree that supposedly gets you a job, you just, like, because we have this family friend, you just get one. Like...
And I'm just juxtaposing my life...
reason.
Yeah, and I'm juxtaposing my life for those 3 years with no more credentials than I have now. Just suddenly someone just, like, gave me an opportunity, and now I'm doing just fine. Now my life is, like, pretty decent, I guess. But, like, there's no difference between those two states of being other than someone decided to hand me shit. Like, do you understand how frustrating that is? It's a nightmare. And I've had all these problems. I've had all these fucking problems, like, getting credits to count with like the school, and like I took a class, it wasn't actually approved. That's thousands of dollars down the drain every time that happens. I hate school so much. No one should ever go. If you're gonna go, people, for the love of God, have a plan. Don't go because you think you wanna figure out who you are. You're gonna waste tens of thousands of dollars. Just go get a job and figure out who you are. Figure out that you want to do YouTube. Figure out that uploading videos makes you happier than anything else you've done. Find a group of people who respect you and that you love and who are your best friends. Don't go to school. Don't do it to yourself. You'll hate yourself for the rest of your life.
Ben,
Wow.
I believe you asked me earlier, like, are you in favor of homeschooling? I'm just in favor of total, like, libertarian school choice. Just like the parents have to evaluate the kid and decide what they think would be best. Like, okay, here's a world that I want, right?
Well,
the kid is doing math and they're not doing good at it, and then they try again and they still suck at it, and they try again, they still suck at it.
Take that kid out of math.
And
take the kid out of math.
Exactly. They go, all right, hey, guess what? You get to give up now. I would have loved nothing better than to give up. Because, like, the thing is, my parents ultimately weren't that good at homeschooling because they didn't know how to do it. They were both raised
they were
with traditional
newcomers to
education.
it, too.
They didn't know how to do it, right? You know, especially back in the 90s, it was, I think, so it was a more new thing than it is now, obviously. How I want to do with my kids, at least at the beginning, when they're, like, little, is just sit them down and talk with them for hours, because I remember sometimes like talking with my dad about like history stuff, and then we like go on Wikipedia and or I don't know if Wikipedia at the time, but we'd go on the internet, look something up. That would be a perfectly fine way to like teach your kids stuff. It's just like hang out with them for hours a day, or however much time you have, and just talk to them and look and read books.
Well,
and
obviously,
Wikipedia articles.
the thing about that is the reason most people. The biggest reason we have public schools is because most people can't raise their own kids. They have to get rid of them for most of the day.
We're trying to compartmentalize the time that parents, so they can grind out the corporate machine and, make America more money and stuff.
Which is a fine goal.
I have no problem
This cat begged to get into my room. I got up. I took my headphones off, let her in, and she immediately wants to go back out.
I like to think that you're referring to like a woman from the 1950s. Yo, this cat wanted into my room and now she won't even put out. What's up with this garbage?
Yeah,
man, I'm still just sitting here just quivering with sorrow and anger from your story, Nate.
I'm glad. Good.
Yeah,
so like
don't do it, people. Learn from my mistakes.
Schooling, like let's look at it this way. It's like you decide to drop out of math, just drop out of all the degrees. Let's say like, well, I like hold on. Whoa. Like, I like history or I like science. You can do a little bit of that stuff. But you know what I really want to do as a 7-year-old?
A song and dance man?
I really love the piano. I want to play piano.
Oh, I was
right.
right.
All right. You could just drop. I mean, not me. I'm just saying, like some other kid. This is like a figure of speech.
Oh,
right?
okay,
I don't play. I don't do music. This is just an anecdote, a false anecdote that doesn't exist.
Okay,
but could be right. This kid wants to play piano, and it's like, okay, well, let's see. If you drop out of school entirely and don't do any work other than like a little bit that you want, you could do 5 hours of piano a day, and that's 6 days a week. And actually, it would be 7 if we killed God and you could go do it on Sunday. But let's just say that we don't kill God.
I'm with you.
Let's say there's a couple weeks you'll take off, so that's 50 weeks a year, and then.
What if that was the plot of a JRPG? A bunch of Japanese friends get together and use the power of friendship to kill God so that they can work on Sunday.
Right, yeah.
I can totally see
Chick-fil-A
that.
on Sunday.
I can see the Japanese wanting that.
And then they celebrate by going to Chick-fil-A on Sunday.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh my God.
and so then, by the time that kid is 17, around the same age he'd be graduating high school, he'd have 15,000 hours of playing piano. That's genius plus 50%.
Here's the
Let me
thing,
just
though.
say, wait, Ben, before you say that, just let me say that that is what my life is currently. I have to go to work. Well, I see you and Digi every day working on making better and better videos and doing so well. Not only am I not like working at the same rate, like not only am I not currently as successful as you, you guys are like accelerating faster than me while I have to go grind away my life at this job that I hate because I can't leave because I can't make enough money currently to do it.
We'll make this a separate podcast, you and me.
You. Okay.
We will do a podcast about this whole topic.
Nate,
It's a trap. You see, my job is a trap. It was all a nightmare.
Nate,
I'm living in a nightmare.
If you subtract your debt from all the money you have, what are you left with?
Well, that's kind of a personal question, dude.
Well, no, I don't mind. I might, like, with all the money, which including stuff I have to spend to live, like, maybe it would have equaled out by now.
No,
Maybe?
I mean, like right now, currently.
Oh, right. I'm doing all right.
Does
I'm
you
doing
having
okay.
debt mean that you ultimately have negative money? Do you have an amount of debt that would equal negative
Yes, I do.
money?
That is correct.
And Ben, I assume the same is true for you.
It is true for me.
I have $9,000 sitting in my
see?
bank and no debt
see?
and perfect credit.
I'm coming for you, Digi.
Yeah, one of these days. All right, Ben, you were saying something.
Oh fuck, shit. What was I talking about when I was
I don't
gonna
know,
break
but
in there?
you better hurry because I'm gonna go on my rant.
Well, move on because I forget
All
what I
right,
was gonna
all
say.
right. Forgive me.
yeah, man, I'm like, I think we need to restructure all this shit. I think
I agree, man.
Because here's the thing. I think that for the vast majority of people, what school is daycare, right?
Yeah.
Your parents
Yes,
are busy,
totally.
and your parents don't have the skill set to raise you, or I mean to teach you things. They're fucking parents. They probably didn't even finish school themselves, right? So
I mean, like, what are you
Maybe.
learning in like elementary school? Like when you're there and you're all sitting at desks and there's 30 of you and the teacher is talking to you for. Like, do you really think you're there, like, learning every day?
Well, you know,
Not
guys,
really.
the one upside of this whole thing is that with automation, AI stuff, and all, like, individual computing, school is probably going to have a revolution in the next few years that makes it way more
Whoa,
Oh, that's
hold on.
so
that's a
fucking
whole other rant I'm
optimistic,
going to get into
dude.
later.
Well,
Be sure
anyway,
to bring that back
wait,
up.
wait,
let me
what did
fucking
you
continue
say?
my
Wait.
story before everybody
All right,
derails
all
this
right.
with fucking
Hey,
AI.
what were you
talk.
saying? What did I say? I said that's way optimistic.
Okay,
to think that there's
okay,
actually
all right.
going to be that. There should be that
We'll see.
revolution, but I
Yeah.
really doubt it.
So anyway,
Okay, fair enough.
school is daycare, right? And you
At
send
present,
your,
yeah.
you send your kids off there. They learn. It's a way for them to not be in around your house in danger all day, and also
Yeah.
they happen to probably be learning something and maybe making
Yeah.
friends and learning how to socialize. Pretty good system, right? Here's the thing.
Yeah.
At some point, you like when you're growing up, especially when you reach puberty, when you're getting into high school. Like personally, I think that the existence of elementary and middle school is pretty justified because
Yeah, I agree.
kids need to learn some basic shit.
Kids
you know.
are worthless trash, and they need
Now,
to be held in
I
line.
do think that we could better optimize what we're teaching kids. I honestly think I don't get why, like, okay, in fucking high school is the first time you can even have any classes that are just life skill classes, and they're always electives, like home ec.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
why is home ec not like a
I
mandatory
never
middle
learned
school
anything
class?
useful in home ec.
Well,
I
yeah,
but
took
that might
home
just
ec. They
because
taught me
I
like
I
a
just
couple
meant that-
recipes.
okay,
They
I wasn't
taught me how to,
actually
like,
talking
sew
about-
a pillow.
I didn't mean literal home ec. I just meant like that's the kind of subject.
Learn
that, like,
to cook is a good skill, though. Everyone's got to eat.
I think
you
everyone
know?
needs to learn how to cook. Everyone needs to
guess.
learn how to fucking build shit and build a car. We brought this up in me and Ben's podcast that I was saying
Well.
that we could just make a whole class around learning how to fix machines. Learn computers.
Yeah,
Make a
yeah.
class about building
yeah.
computers in middle school. Mandatory. Everyone
And
needs to know this now.
most important of all, there's sex education. Why isn't there dating education
Why
classes?
isn't there
Yes.
dating education?
Yes.
I mean, once you go on 3 dates, you have sex. But
Yeah,
what
that's
about, how
right.
do you get those first 3 dates? You gotta find out.
No
we
one
need
knows.
to teach in
No one
school. How do you
knows.
ask a girl out? Ah!
So if it were up to me, I would.
This
I
is
would,
a Chris Chanism, by the way.
Yes, it is.
I would
Yes,
say
it is.
that the elementary school, we teach them all the basic shit they need to know. Middle
Mm-hmm.
school, we continue to teach basic shit, and then we throw in a heaping helping of life skills. Which, I mean, there's some in there. That's when you start getting sex education and stuff like that. But it needs to be a lot more. We need to stop beating around the bush with the sex shit and just teach
Yeah,
kids straight up what the fuck
I've got friends who
and
get
what
taught
people
what's
are.
up, and they are much more well adjusted. Just have
Right.
sex in the culture and
And we
whatever.
need-
Kids, we're going
Yeah.
to stop beating around the bush. We're going to beat directly
And
on the
we
bush.
need
Oh,
God
god damn!
damn.
And we need some fucking we need some education on how to get a job and maintain the job and how to just be a working person.
Yeah.
I don't think you
Well,
can teach that.
That might
I
be
think
true.
you can.
That might be true.
That's
I mean,
a complicated.
Yeah, you know, that's actually a really
complicated
important
and
thing, 'cause,
diverse
like,
skill set.
One of my offline friends was really screwed over for like a year because of that lack of being taught how to get a job. Because like, okay, when you're a kid, you see people working behind the counter at McDonald's, right? And you know you aren't supposed to walk behind that counter, right? That's
Yeah.
not where you belong. Some kids have a hard time even like ordering at McDonald's because it feels like some social thing they're not supposed to do yet until they're older, right? It's
Yeah.
this boundary that you're not allowed to cross. Like when you're a kid, you think of anyone who has any sort of job as someone who probably has some sort of amazing skill. Like how do they know what all the burgers cost? Oh my gosh, right?
Yeah.
So like you have that mentality, and when you're like 20 and your parents are telling you have to get a job, which was the case for one of my friends, I feel like, I mean, part of her problem was just general anxiety, but I think a lot of it was, how do you go up and say you have a job? When? How does this work? How? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I kind of know what you're talking about.
Teach kids what the like. Here's the thing. And we kind of did a little bit of this in elementary school, but like, it would be even better if we just like had a school trip where we all went to McDonald's. Or to a bunch of restaurants, and we all just like sat in the kitchen for a while and just watched what people do.
Oh, I see.
Like, just learn the basic shit of like
If
what's
you work
going
hard,
on.
this could be you one day, kids.
Right.
It would
We
be
actually
the
did
worst
that
day
with the
ever
Boy
for everyone who
Scouts.
works at the McDonald's, but
did
it would
you do
help
that, Ben?
sprout
Well, we
better
did bring all three.
careers for the future.
In the
Wait,
Boy
Ben's got
Scouts,
an
we did that
example.
at a Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh, that's
yeah,
cool.
good
We went-
idea.
Yeah.
And I also was in the Boy Scouts.
Oh, yeah, I was a
so
Boy Scout,
I did
by
some
the way.
stuff
You
like
were?
that too.
Eagle Scout
yeah.
over here. Eagle Scout.
My mom,
Yeah, that's right. That's me.
Yeah, I never made it to Eagle Scout.
My mom was our
But by the
band
way,
leader.
this is a big millennial thing. I'm an Eagle Scout because my dad basically forced me to do it. So I take almost no credit for it.
Anyways,
Yeah, but like,
I think we need all these. I think we need success skills, general life skills. I can't.
and computer programming.
I can't even
I think because like
fucking fathom that at no point in all of schooling, at any point, I went to fucking 12 years of regular school, 2 years
Yep.
of college, and at no point did someone teach me what taxes are and how to do
Oh
them.
my God!
How
What the fuck
the
is that
fuck?
about?
How the
All right, you know
fuck?
what it is? Where people, the education system is like a little bit too wedded to like the Aristotelian model of like learning like general knowledge. People, we
Yeah.
need to know how to do our taxes.
How the
Every
fuck?
single
It's like-
person in America
it's a
has to
government
do it.
mandated thing.
Well,
like you can go to
not really.
jail
Most people
for
who are
not doing
employees,
it.
the taxes get done for them.
That is not
But
true.
that
I'm
just
an
means-
employee at a company, and you got to file your fucking taxes every time.
Okay, maybe that's not the case anymore, but I know it's the case for a lot of people.
No,
I mean, if you're
everyone has
poor
to
enough,
file
you
taxes.
can.
No, everyone has.
Really?
Literally,
people
Well,
everyone
what the heck
has
have
to
I-
follow.
Literally
file them.
everyone.
Yeah.
Okay,
Unless
well, I
you're
don't know what the
Jesse,
heck
in
I've
which
heard
case
then.
you don't.
No,
I know I've always had to
No,
file
the
them.
thing
or,
is,
you know.
Davu, everyone has to file them. It's if you have a normal job, which I realize you've never had like a really normal job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you have a
yeah.
normal job, then your company takes out a certain amount of your paycheck every
Right,
time,
yeah, exactly.
and they give it to the government. And then at the end of the year, you file a tax form that tells
Okay.
you how much they took out, and then they give most of it back.
Yeah,
However,
yeah.
if you're a fucking freelancer like me, you have to figure out all on your own the fact that you have to pay like a third of what you made last year to the government because no
It's your
one took it out
responsibility.
for you. So you have to figure out how to give them the money. And they don't tell you. I mean, they in very
Nobody
vague
tells you.
terms. Yeah,
Yeah.
no one's like, hey, buddy, just so you know, tax season coming up. Here's what you have
Dude,
to do.
I'm just-
They don't tell you. I just knew because I knew what taxes were through television.
I guess
you
it's
know?
a thing your parents tell you. I mean, that's how I learned because my parents
see,
taught me
my
shit.
parents are like they.
But like your parents aren't, like sole proprietors of their own business.
Right.
You know, they work at places,
and they
so
also,
it's a different system.
My parents are like they have a difficulty. They've always had a difficulty of realizing what stuff they know that is not obvious. You know what I mean?
Sure, okay.
Like they for whatever reason assume that me, Victor, and Shade would learn certain things that we don't know
You know,
anything
I
about.
kind of feel that as I'm getting older and people are more retarded, as I see younger people,
That's what
it's
happens.
hard to know. You know, it's really, it kind of is. I have some sympathy for that because I don't know that these fucking kids don't know what, like, I don't know, a VHS tape is.
Right.
Some shit like that. You know, whatever.
Yeah, it's like
saying.
you take certain things for granted because you know how to do them because you've been
Yeah,
doing them
yeah.
forever. But like, I have no idea how my parents learned how to do taxes. But it wasn't until like I had to pay taxes and I came to my parents like, what the
Yeah.
fuck do I do?
There's some things that we're like expected to absorb through like the osmosis of life.
Right.
You
I mean,
know?
I always assumed that the fact that I didn't absorb those things, like how to do taxes, like how to hold a regular, I always just assumed that I was just a little autistic, and that I
No,
was just
no one
just
learns
wrong
this stuff.
for-
No one
I mean,
teaches
because we're all on
you
the
it.
spectrum. I just figured I was a
Yeah,
little more
yeah.
on the spectrum, and everyone else
I
figured
know
this stuff
exactly
out, and
what
I
you
was
mean,
dumb.
Ben, and I think everyone assumes that they are the idiot. I must be the idiot. Hold on, I'm trying to
normal for
remember
people
the
to
fingers
assume.
around my dick quote. well, I must be the idiot here because I had it in my head that the tunnel between Demon World and Human World had been sealed. No. Like,
yeah.
I think everyone just assumes that there's certain shit, because like I've had that experience plenty of times where like I'll have a friend who like I might say something like you know, this is how much is minimum wage or something, like, because I have no idea, like, or I'll ask somebody like, hey, what's like a huge question I had all my life and I only learned it in the last couple years is, what is a normal amount of money to make? I have no idea.
Well, there's no
like,
real answer to that question.
well, like when you fill out those surveys, like, because I used to buy a lot of DVDs, and they would come with these little surveys, like, you know, that you're supposed to mail in. And I never would mail them. I would just fill them out because I'm a fucking weirdo. So, so I filled out all these surveys, and they would always have a question that's like, what is your house's annual income? And I had no idea, because I don't know what my fucking parents make, you know?
I don't even know that shit,
Yeah, and so I would just stare at it, and I'd be like, well, what's normal? Because it has this enormous gradient from, like, 12,000 at the bottom to 250,000 at the top, and I had no concept of how much money is $12,000 versus how much money is $250,000.
Oh, well, when you were a kid, sure.
I really didn't grasp it until I had money. Like, and it was really the moment when I started, like, once I got up to, like, minimum wage, like, through Target and then through YouTube, like, then I would look at, like, I found out how much my dad makes, and, like, did the comparison that it was, like, 30 times what I was making, and I was like, oh, so he does make a lot of money. Oh, so this is what entry level is. This is what most people are making, like, this amount. This is minimum wage. This is the common amount. Like, oh my God, now I understand what money is, you know? But it took so long and, like, so many years of not getting it, and like my entire appreciation of what my parents were doing all this time would have been totally different if I'd had any understanding of money. It would have totally changed my perspective on things.
I guess I thought that those things and understanding all that normal stuff just comes as a part of like following the quote unquote natural, quote unquote normal like life progression as I saw it. You know, I thought that if I just like followed the standard model, you know, high school, 4 years of college, you know, get a job or go into graduate school. Because I intended to go to graduate school and get my PhD when I was in college. That's what I wanted to do. But yeah, no, they don't really tell you that stuff. Let me tell you a little bit about my emotional relationship with education. Like when I started college and through most of my college life, I honestly saw the institution of education and learning with an almost like religious reverence. I thought that it was I thought that it was like that, like a college was a place where people go to learn, and learning was like sacred. Like I was into it. I was like, this is a beautiful, magical thing. Aww. And then like I graduated college and I got a job, and my first real job was working as a teacher at Astro Camp, and it was like just a bunch of fucking kids fucking around asking me dumb questions, and I had a little lesson thing I had to go through, and like, oh, here, I'll show you this dumb demonstration where I fill up a balloon with hydrogen and then blow it up in a big old fireball. Woo, here we go. Yeah, whatever, it was bullshit. And then I went and I fucking now I'm a physics tutor, and I went and I taught in Poland for a while, taught physics, like college level physics classes, and it was like the same thing. It was the same as teaching kids this dumb crap. I was just some idiot up at the board. I had a lesson. I would go through it. Like, kids would sometimes pause the lesson and ask me a question, and I'd be, you know, sometimes I could answer the question, but I can't stop the lesson just because one kid doesn't understand. So I could try to explain a little bit, but mostly I just, like what you said before, did you? Like, just talking at someone until they're so confused that they buy the car anyway. I would just have to kind of think of some, like, quick way to respond to the question that was truthful and honest, but, like, just get them to, like, think that they understood in the hopes that I could then continue the lesson.
Yeah.
They would hopefully go and look at it in their notes later.
Just is way too generalized, you know?
The thing is, I honestly felt like I felt weirdly embarrassed about teaching this class because I knew, like, this was all stuff I learned in college and that was in the textbook. I was always thinking to myself, why are these kids even showing up to my classes and being taught in a classroom setting by me? Why don't they just go home and read the textbook? It's all in the textbook.
Ben,
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
not
I'm
have
done with this
any
point 'cause
special knowledge that I'm sharing with them. I don't even know why I'm here, and yet I was just expected to.
You're saying all the right
Yeah.
things, Ben.
So like
Yeah.
you know, Ben, what you're
So
saying
now
right
I've
there
been
about,
I've been very much disillusioned with the idea of that like college like classroom setting learning. Like now I kind of don't even understand it anymore. after
We're
having
not in
done it.
Athens anymore, Dorothy.
Right.
After
so, like-
after having been on the other side of the equation.
that part where you said like you can't pause the whole lesson just because one kid doesn't understand, like that brings us to the whole subject of tests and stuff. Like, okay, let's just
Yeah.
deconstruct the whole education system. Let's say it doesn't exist. Let's say it's 2,000 years ago. We need to invent school, and like let's just imagine we're in the board of directors where they invent school, and they're like, but wait a second. What if kids are just sitting in the class and never paying attention? How can we determine that they're paying attention? Well, we'll have these pieces of paper where they have to write out the correct answers, and then however many they get right becomes a percentage, and then we evaluate them based on the percentage. And it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
that's obviously how that got invented. But
Fair
think
enough.
about just how inefficient that is, because all you can worry about at school is how can I know just the right amount of information in just the right ways to get that percentage.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
all. That's like the number one thing everyone is worried about at all times, and it's the most inefficient way to learn things. And let me just say this: this is for me the number one thing to say. If the internet existed on the day they came together to invent school, they wouldn't have invented school. If the
I
internet
agree.
existed, there would have been no point.
yeah.
School was invented back
It's-
when most people couldn't even write books. Back
It's an
when like
antiquated system. It's
back when
based-
books
it's
were like
based-
almost impossible to come by. You don't
it's
need it
based
now.
It's based on a totally antiquated mindset from a time before. Yeah, you're right. The
Oh,
internet
this gets to the number
should
one.
have
Okay, this is
changed
the other thing I
everything.
gotta talk about.
Okay.
Right? Nolan Bushnell, creator of Atari, father of video games, in an interview one time was talking about his history with Atari and like the things that he accomplished and the things he was disappointed about. Right? And he said the number one thing that he was disappointed about that didn't come together the way that he wanted to. And this is a guy who failed a lot. This is a guy who like fell from glory in the 80s. But the number one thing that like didn't go the way he wanted to was educational games. Now there's educational games, but they're all boring, right? Most of them, except Oregon
Mavis
Trail and a couple
Bacon.
other classics, right? Using gaming or using computer programs as a form of education never took off in the way that he wanted to. Obviously, video games took off like
Well, I don't know
wildfire.
about that. I played Oregon Trail. I think
Right,
I
but
think
it's
educational
not-
games are as good as they need to be.
Well, the fact that they didn't like just overwhelm the way that we do education.
I think he was probably
is a
hoping
pretty
the
big
world
failure.
would be transformed into smart
Right.
people
well,
or something
here's,
by video
here's
games.
the thing. This is right. I'm about to get very libertarian here.
Okay.
He said that the reason why it wasn't allowed to happen was because of teachers' unions who don't want to be replaced by computers. And the
Oh
way
my
and
God,
teaching
dude.
is
oh,
so.
fuck.
I know this is gonna. Yeah.
That
well,
pisses
anyways,
me right the fuck off.
Yeah, so, like,
did
the
I
thing is
did I
that, like-
mention that having been a teacher gave me a lot less respect for teachers?
That's good.
I know it's an unpopular
like-
opinion. You're supposed to pedestalize teachers and say that they have the most important job.
fuck
They're educating.
teachers.
I mean,
Our
there are
mom
some
is a
good
teacher,
there are
by the
some
way,
good teachers
like
who are
40
really
years.
passionate and go above and beyond. But I think in general, I do not consider teaching to be
Right.
a noble profession in and of itself.
So here's the thing: like, education is such an institutionalized thing.
Yeah,
At least in
yeah.
America, it's one of those. It's like I think now that all the other unions are going by the wayside, the teachers' union is one of the strongest. That's just you can't get anything done. They're so set in their ways, and so many of them are so old with these 30-year pensions. So it just innovation is ridiculously hard. And Nolan Bushnell was saying firsthand that it's just, you just
What
can't
do you mean,
evolve
dude? We're
things.
gonna get an iPad in every class, every desk. Everyone's gonna
Yeah,
have
like it's
an iPad.
happening. But the fact that we didn't get an iPad in every class, like 1 month after the iPad came
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
means that like okay, there's this
Yeah.
one like very creepy libertarian podcast called Freakonomics I listened to a couple episodes of, and they made
Mm-hmm.
a great point, which was if you were to travel from the year 1890 to today, almost everything would be different. Everything works differently. But except schools, they still basically look the
Yeah,
same way they did 130 years ago.
Hey,
A lot
you know
of
they
them
got
are
it
the
in
same
one. They,
fucking buildings a lot of the time.
they hit
a lot of
one
them are
and
the
done,
same
dude. One
people
and
still
done.
teaching.
Yeah. Dude, I gotta.
I mean, you know,
Zing.
here's an anecdote from the 70s. They built schools without windows because apparently that would allow you to focus better. But then I guess a couple of children just got a little
Just
bit
died.
crazy from that, and they stopped that whole trend.
Someone in Japan built a window on the side of a classroom, and some anime character sat next to it, and
Yeah,
everything was
yeah.
different from then on.
That's right. That's
Yep.
right.
All right. Well, I want to get into since Ben went into his like emotional relationship with schooling. I have to do mine too because I want to paint
Okay.
you this picture of why I feel so negatively about the school system because I think I have uniquely been failed and am surrounded by people who have been failed by school. And
Oh man,
so
yeah.
starting with myself. See, my mom raised me to be like extremely grade oriented, right? Like she was very like disappointed if I made like a C, and she would reward me highly if I made A's and B's, right? So like I had this mindset of like anything below a C is a titanic failure. So when I was in like
we kind of did too.
Right, when I was in 8th grade, I think I got my first like D or F on like one report card.
boy.
Didn't even fail the class, but I like carried it like a fucking noose around my neck that I had gotten a bad grade.
Dude,
Totally, man.
The same thing happened to me in 5th grade. I got like a 50 on a test for some reason, and I was distraught. I like banged my head on the blackboard in class and like just. Yeah,
'cause,
like I was fucked up.
I had this experience where when I was in elementary school, like for the first few years, everyone, like my mom and my dad and my teachers were all convinced I was a genius. Like I would do really well on.
If only they could have known how wrong they were.
I would do really well in every subject. I was really great at schooling. So they had put me in the 2nd grade. They put me in like a gifted program they had at the school, right? Where it's just like they did a little extra mile stuff, right? And then they had a whole gifted school, like the advanced learning school, and they were like, all right. When I went into 3rd grade, they put me there. Now, what very quickly became apparent was I was not good enough for this school, because this school is for people who are like, you know, like I think honestly I could partially maybe blame my mom for just not understanding the way that studying works, because she would just tell me to sit at the table and not stop working until I was done, and I would never do it. I would just sit there and stare at my work and like not.
Yeah,
do it,
yeah.
You know?
Same. I was a big procrastinator.
Right.
Even back then, I was a procrastinator.
Me too,
I
man.
was all about putting off my work. I never wanted to get my homework done.
So-
I would just wait and say fuck
when
it.
I was in 3rd and 4th grade at this gifted school, I was not doing as well, and particularly in 4th grade. And my teacher was a huge bitch, right? And here's the thing: I ended up like halfway through 4th grade, I dropped back down to regular school, and at this point, like. I had been like bullied a lot as well, like at both that school and when I went back to the normal one. Like
They'd push you down and say, anime's a Japanese colloquialism.
no, they'd take my glasses and stuff, or just fuck with me and just call me a girl because I looked like a girl. But they, I dropped out of that advanced school, and apparently I found out later that teacher, so like something like 6 kids dropped from her class and they fired her because they realized that she was so because she was fucking terrible. Like all she would do, like if someone I remember several times, because there was a kid who dropped out of the class before me because every time he didn't do it, like he would come in with no homework or something, the teacher would like berate him for 10 minutes and he'd be like crying and shit. And
That's a good use of class time.
Yeah, just like berating this kid. And she would give us these like assignments that were like these insane logic puzzles that involved researching shit on the internet that we hadn't even learned how to do that, and like.
Dude, quick insertion story. So she eventually got fired. That is so wonderful to hear, because my mom tells me these horror stories about this woman she works with who's like a teacher. She's like, my mom's the head of the class. This is like a 2nd level lady. But this woman is a horrible teacher and no one wants to work with her. But instead of fucking firing her, they just transfer her from classroom to classroom because no one wants to deal with her for too long. Oh, is that how we want to handle things? We've got people that are so bad, we just keep moving them around instead of just getting rid of them. It's retarded.
I don't understand how people can be bad at their jobs and not be fired. It's
I know,
such like
it doesn't.
a thing that
it's
happens.
a union
like,
thing or
why?
something, I guess. It's the unions, I guess.
Fucked up, and,
I don't know.
But yeah,
Anyway.
from what I heard,
Well,
she
a lot
got
of it is
fired.
you don't know. Well, hey, hold on. I have some experience with hiring people because I see my dad doing it.
Sure, okay.
A lot of it is you don't know if you're going to be able to replace them with someone who isn't worse. That's, I think, the number
This
one reason
woman,
why
it would be
bad
better
people
to
don't
have
lose their
no
jobs.
one than to have this particular person.
So anyways,
Well, I don't know. Like you have to fill the seat. You have to get the kids sitting down for a correct amount.
I mean,
of time,
all this
It's
means
just
is that they
hard.
would need to further distribute like the time of each individual teacher if one person goes, and they'll find someone. Anyway,
So
go
anyways,
on.
to continue my story, like after that experience, I kind of became disillusioned with the idea that I was good at school. I'd come up with this idea that I was this genius, and then I had to drop out of the fancy school, and I just wasn't. I never did as well as I did when I was a little
Man,
kid,
that didn't happen to me until college, but I wish it
I
happened
had
a lot
the same
sooner.
trajectory. I did really well, and my parents told. I just felt like I was a genius, and then
Yeah.
I spent like the rest of like regular schooling not believing that, and I had to get onto YouTube to reaffirm my assumptions about myself.
I kind of had a similar thing. Like I was in gifted classes and stuff, and like I really saw myself as a smart kid, and it was a strong part of my self-image that I was an intelligent person, and along with that gave me this religious awe over learning and institutionalized learning, and that self-image of being a smart person, I think, was a huge factor in me being motivated enough to do my classwork and like actually graduate college.
That's
like,
where we're
I think
getting
those two things fed into each other.
Because we got to get to this, because this is how it all goes down. This is where the big event happens, right? So like I've become sort of disillusioned with the idea that I'm super smart, but I always wanted to recapture it, you know? So in 9th and 10th grade, I didn't do all that well. I was kind of going downhill a little bit, but I was going into 11th grade, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick up, like I'm college is going to come pretty soon. And at this point I'd been like horribly depressed, like because my whole teen years were spent like depressed as shit, and so I was just like really desperate for a way to like pick myself up and get into the action, right? So
get good.
So I was like,
gotta get good.
I wanted to there's my school had this program where basically the community college that's near here called TCC, they have a certain building called the ATC building where they teach like college courses to high school kids essentially. So like if you're if you're one of those smarter fast track kids and you want to learn like special skills usually involving computers and like just any kind of computer related shit, they would bus all these kids out to this other school across town and then bus them back at the end of the day. They would go there like every other day. So I wanted to do ATC so I could learn like some kind, I think it was just programming or something, like wanted to be a video game guy or something like that. I just wanted to learn some computer skills. So I signed up for ATC, and then I also signed up for an advanced English class because I was particularly good at writing. I always have been. So I wanted to, take an advanced course in it. So I set all, like, that's the thing I applied for. Like, I set everything in motion. Here's the thing.
Okay.
No one at any point contacted me to tell me that I couldn't do this schedule because the amount of classes, basically there was like a contradiction in the classes I was taking where I had I would have had to
like
give
an overlap
up,
or something.
Like I had too many. Like I had one too many classes and to take the ATC thing. And so I approached. Like no, here's what it was. It was that when I had first signed up for all those classes, I had told this to my guidance counselor before like the 10th grade had ended, and she had said, well, if you take this course load, then you'll have to take Algebra 2 over the summer as a summer school class. And I said, okay, that sounds great, right? Summer rolls by, and she meant like the next summer I would take it as a class. I go to school on the first day, and no one's contacted me at all about how to go to ATC. I don't know what bus I'm taking. I don't know where it is, because I didn't know much about it. I'd never done it before, so no one's told me how to get there. So I go to the guidance office because I'm just like fucking lost and confused, and I go to her and I'm like, so am I doing this ATC thing? Like, am I going there? And she was like, well, you can't do all these classes because they contradict. There's like a whole, and I said, well, I thought you said I could do Algebra 2 over the summer, and she was like, no, that kind of thing. So she was like, so basically on the first day of school, she asks me, like, on the spot, like, you have to either drop out of ATC or drop out of advanced English. And I was just like, well, I guess I'm not doing ATC, so I didn't do it. So that was just stricken from my thing, right? So at this point, like, I'm majorly deflated because I have this go-getter attitude towards 11th grade, and already half of what I wanted to do is gone.
Right.
So I start taking the advanced English class, and at this point I get extremely depressed, and I hated this class. My teacher was, like, really trying to push this, like, feminist agenda and stuff, and was super into, like... She was, like, one of those super, like... reading all this meaning into the text, but then you had to like she would teach you that, like, oh, you can learn.
You had to read the same meaning?
Yeah, exactly.
That was by far the most pissed off I'd ever been at any curriculum I'd ever taken. Like, what is this character feeling as she gets out of the car and sneezes on the inside of her breast pocket? Depression, disdain, disorder, distrust. Why do I know what you're going to interpret it as? Who wrote this? Why was that a thing in school? That makes no sense! Why is that a thing you can get graded on?
That's a good
I think
question.
Devu just wanted to scream.
I think so too.
But yeah,
You get
I
the
couldn't
bus
believe
sometimes.
the world when I heard that. Like, why can we ever critique Soviet Russia or the Nazis or the ancient Incans
Oh boy,
or
here
anyone
comes
else
Taboo with
for
the
their
if only we were
terrible
Nazis defense.
practices and their terrible ideologies when our society can't look down on them when we have stuff like that you're just supposed to go
so
on?
anyways-
but at least we didn't burn all the Jews. You know, we've got that going on.
to finish this story,
But the
We let them
Nazis had a
control our
very
entire
government.
government.
relativistic view of how the Jews were feeling
That's-
as they
you know,
burned.
Yeah.
that's what
If someone
counts.
came to my house and said,
damn, stop
"Go
talking
to
about
this
the
gas,"
Nazis.
you either have to go to this gas chamber or answer all these bullcrap questions about this book.
I know what
would
I'd
have
pick.
to
I
decide.
know what
It would be
I'd
a hard
pick.
decision, man.
All right, so anyways, I took this advanced English class and I fucking hated it. It was way
Right.
too much work, 10 times more than all the other classes combined, basically.
Right.
Just shit tons of work, and the teacher was a bitch, and I hated her, and so she would assign us like these writing assignments based on whatever books we were reading, and we were like chomping through books in this class. Like every other class would get assigned like one book a year. This was like reading all the time, writing all these essays, like all this really deep, high-minded stuff. And this is the kind of shit like. There was a lot of kids in this class because we only had like one advanced placement English class, but like most of them weren't gonna make it. It was like you had to be like a straight A student to be a part of the advanced placement classes at this school.
Sure.
So at this point, I've become extremely depressed. I don't care about anything. I'm bombing this class pretty hard, and I start writing the most like fucked up essays possible. Right. So at one point, the teacher asks us to like take 5 quotes and like write an analysis of them. So I choose, and I don't know.
Tell me it was Hitler.
Oh, it's much better than that.
Okay.
One of my 5 was the speech that Martin Luther King gives in the Boondocks, where he gives the whole
all
nigga
I
speech.
see is fucking niggas.
Yeah. Would you ignorant niggas please shut the
Shut
hell
the
up?
hell up. Yeah.
I wrote out the
really
whole
good.
speech in my
Oh my
essay
God.
with all the niggas intact. And
I hope you just said N asterisk
No.
asterisk
No,
asterisk
no,
in every
no.
single one. Like the whole essay is just
man.
asterisk.
I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't very long. Like we only had to write like 1 page of analysis of each quote, but I did I did that quote, which the teacher, like, not only gave me like a shit grade for that, but also like wrote into the notes like, Martin Luther King never said this.
Yeah,
which
it says you bitch.
Which is
It
hilarious
says you.
because I said in the essay that it was a quote from a show, and
so she didn't even read your
Wow.
Like, she
fucking
didn't
essay.
comprehend
The
it,
epitome of
apparently.
fucking commenting before reading the entire video.
Ah, she was the first. She was the
Yeah.
first.
She was
You
the
know,
first
like-
shitty commenter you ever had.
but here's the thing, like,
yeah, like imagine in the board of directors when they're inventing education and someone says you have to have a test with grades, someone would have been like, wait, hold on, what about all the essays that they have to write? That's subjective. How can you grade that?
They're just like,
get out of here,
figure it out.
Kowalski.
Just
get
wing
out.
it.
We,
Yeah.
We're not.
So-
we just gotta get this system over with.
So
all right,
anyways,
we gotta get back to not dying.
I had it in my head because like one of the books we read early into this class had the word cunt and the word fuck in it. So I kind of got it in my head like, okay, we're reading stuff with swears in it. I can write those into my essays because, you know,
Sure.
it's advanced. We're
Yeah,
all
you know.
mature adults here. We can handle some swearing.
Yeah,
I got
us
into a lot of trouble
17-year-olds.
No,
for
listen,
swearing in my
listen, no.
essays. But
The word niggas is like water, and the school system is like the Wicked Witch of the West. When you put one
Yeah.
on the other, the whole thing just
well,
collapses.
here's how I almost got expelled from school. So I wrote an essay.
Oh, by the way, your story is very American History X. You know, very you know.
So this essay that I wrote was our teacher assigned us that we had to take one author who we had read in class and apply their style to a story about a time when we had failed. And so I chose George Orwell and to apply it to me failing to do my English homework. And I wrote this 5-page essay that was like this unbelievably depressing manifesto about how much I like hated doing schoolwork. And it's told like
Oh, jeez.
it's like bouncing between like it was, I mean, I assume it was pretty good. Like, at this point, I had gotten a handle on, like, writing in this gonzo style that I kind of do now. So it read kind of like an S4 diary video or something. But it was bouncing between, like, dialogue between me and Dansan and like, storytelling or narrating. And so there's one part where I'm talking about how, like, I'm holding a gun to my head and convincing myself not to pull the trigger and put it back down. There's one part where where in the
Good
text,
Lord.
like, because I was texting Dansan in part of the story, and he says like something like, "Don't flip out and stab your teacher" or something like that.
Oh boy, here we
So
go.
they took all that seriously, just like how when you did those update videos with you with a gun, they took that seriously and thought you
Right.
were trying to kill yourself. So your teachers really were shitty
Is that the one where
commenters.
you
Right.
shoot yourself in the head like 8 times and it doesn't do
No,
anything?
that's the Sword Art Online announcement.
Oh,
video.
okay.
But anyways, so I wrote this essay, and I turned it in, and like it, like she was like always grading this stuff like a month after we turned it in. Like it was like
Really?
a way
Yeah,
long
one of
cycle.
those,
So it was a long time before I heard back about this. But I happened to be like out of the house, and I come walking home, and my parents are like furious and terrified and like yelling at me like, "What the fuck did you do? What did you write?" And I'm like confused as fuck because it's been a while
Yeah,
since I
yeah.
wrote this thing, so I'd forgotten about it. And but the funny thing is, like, the motivation for writing it was I wanted to get out of this English class. Like, it was a cry for help. It was a cry for please get me out of here, right? So I get into all this trouble, and my dad's particularly freaking out because this is like maybe 2 months after the Virginia Tech massacre. So, like, the idea that they
right,
called
right.
my parents and are like, "Your son wrote this essay where he mentioned stabbing teachers and shooting people," and they're like, that's how it was put to my parents. Because what had happened was my English teacher had read this essay, and she got scared, and she came to my guidance counselor, who, as we've already established, is an idiot and a bitch.
Right,
And
right.
she read the essay, and she interpreted it way more dramatically, and she thought it was like this, you know, this terrifying manifesto kind of thing. So she's the one who called my parents and was like, "Your son's writing about shooting teachers and stuff." So I have to go in the next day to a meeting where it's like my assistant principal for my grade and the school psychologist did not know that was a thing. But apparently there's a school psychologist who they bring in for moments like this. And we sit in a meeting with them and my parents. Luckily, they were both cool. They were understanding. The psychologist liked the essay. He was like, you know, I think
Oh, cool.
he read it and he said, "I think you're going to be a great writer someday."
Oh my god.
So they
Beautiful stuff.
They liked it, and they were like, "All right, well, you need to go home, just take the rest of the day off, and come in tomorrow, and we'll discuss this, right?" So the next day, at the very end of the day, like, the bell's ringing for everyone to go home, and they like take me into this side meeting room that I didn't even know about, and there's like all these teachers in there,
It's the
like
fucking dungeon.
like the
Yeah.
English teacher, the assistant principal, the school psychologist, and then like a bunch of people I don't even know are all like having
Oh,
a round
man.
table with me, right? And what I I didn't quite like understand what was happening at the time because I was a really shy, soft-spoken kid, and I didn't handle quick decision making well at all, right?
Few do
So-
at that age.
What I figured
We're
out,
all on the spectrum.
yeah, what I
Don't worry
eventually
about it.
figured out was they were basically trying to get me to say I don't want to take this class anymore because, like, obviously,
Why did they just fucking say that?
well, like they were saying like, "Hey, you know, are you sure you want to take this class? Are you sure you don't want to stop? Because it seems like from this essay
okay,
you don't
okay.
want to take this class." And I kind of got the sense that maybe the teacher was also just afraid to have me in that class anymore.
Yeah, that's totally possible.
So, so moral of the story is eventually they talked me into dropping the class.
She's a feminist, you know, she fears the manpower.
And dude, it was so epic when this happened because I come walking out of this boardroom and like they had told my bus to just like wait for me. So like I come out like all the other buses have left and I come walking out of the building
Jesus.
and my bus is waiting there like by itself with all the kids on it and I just get out and I'm like yeah, I got everything I wanted. Like I became convinced I was God after this because I had managed to miss a day of school and stay home. I got out of the English class I didn't want to be a part of. No repercussions, no punishments.
we're looking at a light Yagami level intellect over here.
Yeah,
It's fucking amazing what this guy can do.
like you can find on my anime blog where I wrote like a post that's like to the effect of "I'm a fucking god. I can't believe how great I am."
The god of the new world, Digibro.
So
It's a Death Note
so,
reference, people.
I got a shitty essay story. It's gonna be quicker than yours.
right, well, I'll just
but,
wrap up my disillusionment
Okay,
here
okay,
because like
okay.
after that I ended up in like a normal English class, which I literally passed while sleeping through every class. Like, it was on the level of idiocy that I could do. I could not fail it. Like, I couldn't possibly fail the class. But from that point forward, it was just like, this is what school is to me. It's guidance counselors failing you and getting your fucking shit messed up. It's teachers who fucking don't understand you and don't have, like, I mean, how could she possibly have just, like, figured out my problems when she had, like, there were literally 40 kids in this class, like, per class, and she was, grading essays a month after they were written. How the fuck is she supposed to deal with my hangups, Like, she can't, which is why they had to have the fucking school psychologist do it. So, like, I just became so, like, in the mindset of, like, wow, school means nothing. And, like, the 12th grade at my school, they were so desperate to graduate kids that 12th grade was just a skate. Like, they would get, like, none of the classes would give homework. Everyone was trying to, like, baby the students.
That's pretty common.
My English teacher,
Mine was like that too.
More or less,
he was supposed to
of it.
assign, like, 1984 as the reading for that thing. And he literally just didn't give us a book because he was like, you guys aren't going to read it and I don't want to fail all of you.
Lol.
So he didn't give us the book. So it was just such a walk in the park. And I've had, like, just to summarize really quick, like, one of my friends, Mike, this dude had like 29 credits, but there was one class that he hadn't passed, and he was like 18 and fully graduated, except that he couldn't take this one class, and they wouldn't let him take it because he couldn't take one class. Like, you can't just come back to school and take one class in high school.
Why the fuck not?
I don't know, but he had already done all the other classes. He had 29 credits. The maximum you need to graduate is 24. He had 29, and he couldn't graduate. They wouldn't let him go take the other class.
I'm so far over my graduation requirements for school in terms of numbers. It's just the fucking specific piece of shit.
All right,
class.
Ben, let's hear your essay story.
Let's hear Ben's.
In my senior year of high school in English class. By the way, English was my best subject in high school. Right. Definitely. And I was in like advanced English, and we had like a big literary essay for the last semester of fucking 12th grade or whatever. Or 11th, it doesn't matter. And we had to, like, we knew about it the entire semester. It counted for, like, a third of our grade. It was big. And, it was very strict about, like, notation. Like, you have to make a bibliography and notate it in the APA format.
I remember doing those, yep.
Yeah, yep. You have to be it was very strict about that. Anyway, the day finally comes when it's due. I've been writing it for, like, weeks. And I bring it to class, and I realize, like, I look at my bibliography, and I see, you're supposed to have the titles underlined, and the other things in quotations, whatever. Anyway, one of my things is not underlined properly. It's missing an underline. I drew in an underline, but it looked bad because I drew it with a pen. And I was like, shit, this doesn't look quite right. So I went to my friend who had, like, a computer lab class, and I was like, hey, would you mind doing me a favor? Could you just, like, reprint this one little page with the underline in place?
Yeah,
like,
okay.
Like, print this with an underline just so it's right when you're in the fucking computer lab. And she was like, sure, Ben, I'll do this for you. So later that day, she hands me the retyped version. It's in a totally different font this time. But I'm like, well, whatever. At least it's complete. I hand it in. I get the essay back like a week later with a big fucking 0 on it because she had forgotten one of my sources, and because it was missing a source, they gave me a 0 for plagiarism.
Wow. Of course.
Oh my god.
I lost like an entire letter, and my parents were furious. They went to school and were like, this is totally unfair. This is stupid that you would give a 0 for this, like, typo is basically what it is. But they were so fucking set on, like, they had, like, oh no, we laid out the rules really clearly. Like, we're really set on sticking to these fucking guidelines we've laid out. So yeah, I got a big
Ben,
0 for, like, the biggest essay of the entire schooling.
Every time I hear
season.
something like that, I just want to fucking go burn down a school. Like,
all right,
absolutely. Oh man, yeah.
Here's a different kind of story on that. By the way, I've only got 14 minutes left of disk space, so let's wrap this shit up. But
Holy shit, why?
Listen to this. I don't know why, because I'm an idiot. I'll deal with it later.
Be.
But listen to this.
Dingus.
So my buddy John in in college was taking astronomy. Yes, astronomy. And like one of the assignments they had to do, he just did not give a fuck. He had calculated that like it's such an easy class that like he had already gotten an A, and no matter what he did at this point, the worst he could get was a B. No matter if he got a 0 for everything else. So what he did for the final assignment was just like this big like summary of like, it was kind of like just your thoughts and opinions on like what astronomy is about, like what it's meant to you and stuff. So what he did, instead of actually writing this essay properly, was just, he wrote it a stream of consciousness, like about his current feelings about astronomy while just like thinking about the night sky. And so it's just this whole big thing.
Is that what it was supposed to be about?
No. Well,
What was it supposed to be?
not really. It was supposed to have like sources and like we learned this, and this, and like,
No,
but he
but
just
what was the
interpreted
subject
it.
supposed to be?
It's something like what you've learned in the class, but it's supposed to be like
I
a fairly big like
see.
5-page paper about, you know, substantive
Okay.
stuff. But he just talked
Okay.
about like Mars is red makes me feel angry. I look up at the sky and I see Mars. I get so angry, but then I look at Venus and I see Venus and I'm filled with hope and I'm filled with lust for a woman's body, you know, like shit like that. This is what he wrote in the paper, and like so he gets it back like a month later after he turns it in. It just says on the paper, F terrible. And that's it.
That's kind of what
Way to
all
go,
of-
John.
Like all of my essays in high school were always like stream of conscious meta narratives. Like they all were like
Terrible.
Incredibly
Terrible. Just the one
And
word.
was-
The one word.
And did he just shrug and go like, yeah, guess so?
Yeah, that's exactly how he
man.
implied it to me.
That
Yeah.
reminds me of the next another thing that happened. Like when I was in 12th grade, we had a government class, I think it was, and like
Okay.
we had this new teacher who like she had just come from like another school and she transferred in, and like half the time in class she would just like not be able to explain the subject matter to the students in a way that they could understand, because she was like super by the book, but she always seemed like really nervous and stuff, like, and so I would often like, there was one time she was trying to explain affirmative action, and
Oh
I've heard this
boy. Oh
story.
boy. Here
I've
comes
heard
the
this
white
she's
one.
trying
guilt.
to
Yeah.
do this, like, yeah, she wouldn't like use like the words white or black and stuff, like she
Oh,
was
man.
like really trying to like tiptoe around the issue, and like like all
By the way,
kids in
she was
class-
white. I assume she was white,
yeah,
right?
she was white.
Okay,
and
just
about half
checking.
the class was black. So
Yeah,
like I could tell everyone in the class seemed interested and like they wanted to understand, but she just could not explain it because she was walking so hard on eggshells. And finally, I did this like a lot of times during this class. I would just say,
Yo, niggas, let me tell y'all about affirmative
I
action.
literally said to the teacher, "Can I explain this?" And she was like,
Did you stood up with his arms crossed, with his backwards hat and his
Yeah.
big sunglasses and his big Flava Flav chain, and said, "Yo, let me break it down for you."
I would say, "Can I explain this?" And she'd say yes. And I was just like, if you have 10 white guys and 5 black guys in the community, that's how many you have to hire. Like, it's that simple, you know, and everyone got it, you know, and but it's just that, like, she was so by the book about everything. And it's funny, too, because I didn't do well in this class because I would goof off the whole time. Like, me and
Yeah,
that
it
kid
sounds
Mike I
gay as hell.
mentioned sat next to each other, and we would just fucking talk and pass notes and be assholes. And so, like, even though I knew the subject well enough that I was teaching parts of the class better than the teacher could, I nonetheless, because she was very strictly by the book and I was completely not following the book, didn't do well in this class. But to me, all of this just says, like, all I see is a joke when I look at the school system. All I see is all these
Yeah.
cracks. It's all, like,
Dude.
people fall through the cracks,
Dude.
and there's cracks everywhere. It's all
Yeah,
cracks.
that's-
It's
yeah.
just a
You-
fjord.
You say it's a joke. I say it's a big old fucking circus. That's how
Yeah.
I feel about it. Like,
It's a circus,
when I'm
for sure.
when I'm tutoring someone, I'm just like, this is a joke. Like, you don't need me.
Yeah.
You don't need me to tell you this stuff. You could look it up on your own,
Right.
but you just don't for some. And thank you, because I'm being paid for this and I appreciate it. But why?
Right.
Why are you
we've
paying
been going
me for
on
this?
and on and on and on and on about all these problems. What are some solutions? Everyone,
All right, here's
go
my-
to our
my
Patreon.
big solution
At a
is
certain-
right
at a
here.
certain, no. Here's my solution.
I've been
Go
waiting
to our
for this.
Patreons. We will start the TPC institution. It'll be the easiest school ever, right? You go to your decent human behavior class, and it's just Jesse being, "Don't stop being a fucking faggot." Then
Yes!
you go to your economics
Yes!
class. You go to your
Yes!
economics class, and it's just
DeVoe.
us all standing there in a circle going, "Get money, get money, get money, get money, get money, get money." And you're in and out of school in like 45 minutes, and you've learned everything you need to know.
That's
yeah,
the
that
best
sounds about
fucking
right.
thing I've ever heard to do. Other than that, my solution would be,
Nuke it.
I think we take elementary and middle school, maybe add one more year onto middle school, and turn it into teaching way more life skills, way less bullshit. I can't tell you how many times I relearned U.S. history throughout school. I don't care. None of it mattered. Like, I learned the same 10 names about American history in every single year of education. Cut that shit out. Learn it once, and then it's over. Because if I ever need the knowledge, I'll look it up on the fucking computer. So,
yeah, that's the age we're in now.
Cut out, like, majority of history can be cut out.
And you don't even learn the good stuff. For example, there was a Civil War general named Hooker, where that name came from, because he had all these women in his tent.
So,
never learned that in school.
See? There you go.
So yeah, cut
that.
out most of the history shit. If you have a kid who's not doing good at math and you really try, but it seems like he's not making it, put him in something else. Take him out.
And by the way, also in the Civil War, General Burnside had the largest sideburns of all time, and that's where the term sideburns come from. So you see, the Civil War has a huge wealth of knowledge.
Now,
we're not tapping into
what a
shame.
With all of the money that we've saved by cutting 3 entire years off of the education system and just burning down lots of schools because
burn them
just
down.
the hell of it. Like, now that we've saved all this money, let's put it into making way more trade schools and way more schools where after the 10th, like 9th grade. 9th grade's the last grade we have in my new school system. You have 9 grades. They're way more specialized. We put in, and there's lots of different types of courses. If a kid seems like he doesn't know anything about math, put him in an arts course. If he doesn't know anything about arts, put him in a math course. Find somewhere. Have different course loads for different people.
You gotta find shit for the right kids.
Way more so than we currently have. Get rid of the fucking Common Core. Nobody needs history this fucking badly. Put him in something else. Cut a bunch of bullshit out. Restructure it. Then, after 9th grade, have 3 years of trade school. They can pick whichever one they want to go to. Because even if they don't get a job in that field, it doesn't matter. Because just like college, you'll pick up a bunch of life skills. If you learn how to, become, let's say, a computer programmer, those skills will help you forever in everything. And my advice to our audience, don't go to college, go on Google, type in the phrase, "what is code," and read the Bloomberg article that's 34,000 words long. It teaches you everything in a very pleasant format that's easy to understand and learn, what code is, and then learn how to code and code everything forever because you are an inexhaustible resource that everyone needs in the world.
And there you have it. Those are our solutions. All right.
Right on.
That's, just go do it, folks. And, hey, if you want to tell stories about your nightmare college shit, just leave in the comments. I'd love to read them. I'm interested. I want to hear about everyone who's gotten fucked over.
Listen to Kanye West, his first album.
Let's have a toast for the douchebags.
Not that one.
No, that's about me. All right. Well, all right. Thanks for watching, folks. We'll see you in the next one. Bye. Yeah.
I'm supposed to be working right now. I'm supposed to be working right now. But I'm not working. I'm doing nothing. My dick I'm jerking. Myself I'm sucking. I am an asshole. I am a stupid. I've got a deadline.
What the hell is wrong with me?
I'm supposed to be making money. I'm supposed to be creating funny things that the people gladly will pay for. Artistic genius, that's what they came for. Instead I'm tweeting, hashtag repeating. That's why there's no heat and holes in the ceiling. Yeah, it's quite the burden. It's a hard knock life, being a genius.